Downtown Development Authority, January 10th, 6 p.m. Kate, would you call the roll?
Yes. Andrew Dewart,
He will be
Steve Roundtree,
here.
Ron Mitchell,
Here.
Trustee Corvallin,
Here.
Barb Hart, here, Danielle Kraus,
Here.
Steve Carell,
He'll be online.
Catherine Ballard,
Here.
Scott Papich.
Here.
All right.
And just you three, because you're so far away from this, you need to speak pretty loud. Or move closer.
Or you can move along.
Just everybody move down.
Are they not coming?
Yeah, I did.
Andrew will be here.
Oh, yeah, I would recommend that everyone scoot in.
Scoot in.
Kind of like being able to see you guys.
Yeah.
Then yell.
Oh, you don't want to see me, that's what it is.
So Tanya's online, so we'll put
Probably
Tanya
not.
right
Like
here.
hanging out next to you, man.
All right.
I mean, it's really only one seat because Andrew's coming.
Yeah, but I would
and
just
he'll
talk
probably
to
be
Peter. We got that feedback last night that it's hard to hear the people at the end, so the two.
Okay. Hi, Andrew. Andrew joined us. Steve Carell, are you online? I don't see it. We'll check back in and see if he joins us.
I think we have roll call.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, let's move to our first consent agenda item, which is the check detail. Does anyone have any questions, either from the public or the board, regarding the checks for last month? Hearing none, we'll move to the next item. They're all information items. So
Well, the consent, we have to do a motion to approve and then
The
we do
consent
roll
agenda,
call.
okay.
Yeah, we got to do a vote for consent.
do I hear a motion to,
I make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
You know what? I can take mine out. I got enough now probably for the meeting.
So we have a lot of informational items tonight, so let's scoot to it. First one will be the town branding.
Yep, so Peter Kasich, Public Engagement Manager, is online, and he was just gonna give a brief update about the branding and creative identity. So Peter?
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So yeah, for those that may not be aware or just want a little bit more info, last year we were awarded a $20,000 grant from the Colorado Tourism Office with the intention to develop a cohesive brand identity that would reflect a community sense of place and core values that could be used for kind of all aspects of town. It would be an update to not just our logo, but the kinds of fonts that we would use in letterheads, stylistic choices, things like that. And we partnered with Godot Creative last year, who through kind of the third quarter of the year, we're doing community engagement and creating their set of assets. Last week they presented to the board of trustees, and then everything got interesting after that. There was a lot of feedback on specifically the logo mark part of the brand. So Miranda and I have been talking with Godot regarding all that feedback and changes that need to be made. So currently we are looking at, they're going to develop a number of different assets that we will bring to the public through a public town hall kind of thing at the end of the month to get more feedback and have everyone vote on kind of what they like the best to move forward. So it's been an eventful week, but if anyone would like to see what was presented, I can send that over. I don't know if Miranda had attached that to the packet at all, or if Kate had attached that to the packet at all, but you can see where things ended up, and I actually could share it too if that was be of interest. But that is the current spot for where we are with this marketing and branding strategy.
Thank you, Peter. Any comments from the public, online, or the board?
I watched the whole thing online and it was fascinating. It's in the paper this week, definitely read it.
Yes,
Thank
that's
you
right.
for-
An article just is coming out tomorrow, right? On that?
It's on the stands right now.
Oh, excellent. Definitely check that out.
So chair is,
Comment. I missed whatever was said about the logo, but, really sad by what came out. I gave a breakdown, which I will include, in the next packet, BOT packet. I'm not happy at all with what occurred. And the company, the guy's attitude right out the get-go, I went to the train car meeting, and when I walked in, somebody asked me, are we rebranding Nederland? And I said, we're not rebranding, we're branding because we never had a brand. And one of the team members said, the brand is Frozen Dead Guy and we need to get rid of it now. And that's why we need to rebrand. So, and then the guy started out by saying, Beckett said, if you're here for a branding, rebranding, or identity meeting, you've got a lot to learn because the terminology has changed and this is much more in depth. And the derogatory attitudinal, we did all these things. I didn't see a single thing on any of the meetings I attended incorporated, not by anybody that contributed at any of those meetings. I didn't see, not just me, anybody that contributed, did not reflect in the product that the town received. And I can't even believe, and no doubt it was when Peter said, well, we were surprised we had a great turnout, 15 applications for that project. No shit, 15 applications. You don't have to apparently do much to get $25,000. So, should have been a local artist or the kids in the art classes, if anything. I don't believe we needed a change. We're not changing the logo. We're changing what people have in their minds as their memories in Nederland. And unfortunately, for the people who hated Frozen Dead Guy, lots and thousands of people from all over the state and the country think of Frozen Dead Guy. I was just on my way over here listening to KBCO down in Boulder on the radio, and what did it say? It said one thing, and then I heard, and home of the Frozen Dead Guy, and then the next thing I heard was the unique Colorado. We just gave away, chased out of town our unique Colorado that's getting airplay on the radio on a general commercial. So I'm not happy at all. Feel the town got ripped off, but the town allowed itself to get ripped off. Okay, the town didn't set parameters. So that's my public comment. Sorry if I went over 3 minutes.
you did not. Thank you, Kathleen. Any other comments?
Quick comment,
Sir,
okay. I'm.
please tell us who you are.
I live at 86 Goat Trail, and I'm a member of the Nederland Area Seniors Board. And we're discussing having a classic car show perhaps in September at the park. And I just wanted to make you aware that we're trying to plan this, and I'm not sure it's going to come to fruition or not, but just wanted you to know about that.
Oh, we're all in favor of events. We'd like to have it. As soon as you are fairly sure that you're gonna do it, please, register with the town and reserve the park. So that you know that, you're not gonna be interrupting somebody else's big party. And, we'd love to have it. At least I would love to have it. I can't speak for the board, but I see a few nods in that direction.
Well, I hope to see your old car there.
If it'll make it. Thank you. All right. Let's move on to the chair report. The chair has nothing further than what's in your packet. Steve, would you like to give the treasurer's report?
Nothing in addition to what's in the packet already.
You're next, Kate.
I don't have anything in addition to what's in the packet.
Town staff.
I have nothing else to report.
So it's gonna be a short meeting. Beautification project. Who would like to?
Well, there's gonna be an item on beautification, so tonight, so the reason, the info update should always look like this. There should always be, even though there's a few lines in them, it's not always something, but that's the way the info item should always be, that there's something written in here so that the public and everyone can view it. And so, the update for beautification is really just that there's gonna be an item tonight on the budget, and Judy's been working feverishly getting everything lifted for the year.
Okay. Public art. No
We
bells.
have a meeting coming up next Wednesday and Kate's gonna join us and I'll come back with more information after that.
All right. Riverwalk.
Just, waiting to hear back from, town staff on when they're gonna work on the project that we outlined with the, repairing between the bridge and Chipeta Park. So
Okay.
after it defrosts, is basically what we're told.
That's it.
It feels like a long way. Yeah.
Summer concert series, Andrew or Tanya?
Is Tanya online?
Mhm.
Oh, well, I can,
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, we
Okay.
have an action item, or, yeah, so we can talk about that.
so, yes, I mean, do you want to just deal with it at the action item instead of a discussion item? I'm confused.
Yeah, the information item is just for the packet as a project update, so it's just saying that,
Okay.
like beautification, that you're gonna have an item tonight that
Yeah.
you're working on and what you all have been to the
Right.
last month.
I mean, the synopsis is, and shortly when we have the action item, we'll be discussing the RFP that we had, Kate brought to Tanya and I worked on, that Kate brought to the town attorney, that we'd like to bring before the board for a summer concert series. So that's the discussion there.
Is this RFP in draft form or is it?
Yes.
Yes,
Right.
it's not the town attorney that reviewed it, it's the
Oh,
DDA
Yeah,
attorney,
sorry,
our
yeah,
attorney.
misspoke.
Now, the draft that we incorporated had Attorney Madsen's comments from an RFP that Miranda shared, so there is that consistency with town form, but our attorney is who reviewed it. 'Cause
He's
that-
finished?
Oh, yeah, and that's what was sent
Can I
out to
get
the
a
board
copy of
last
it,
week.
please?
Excuse me?
Could I get a copy of it, please?
Yeah, and it's in your board packet too.
Okay. Wayfinding, concert series, we're back.
Well, you're not gonna do that. Are you doing first? You would have just the regular updates first, right?
Yeah, so we still have the wayfinding information item, then we move to action.
Okay. Action items.
So wayfinding update, I think.
Wayfinding.
Update?
Yeah,
Right.
I can just, really isn't anything to add to what's in the bid doc. I think the big thing is trying to make sure that the branding process is complete. It's hard to go out and start something when you can't finalize it, so
Mhm.
we're in a bit of a holding pattern.
But everything's ready to go once we know what colors or what kind of preferences that we need to
Yeah.
work with. We have all of our bid docs, everything is in line. It's all ready to go. We just need to know and we'll be able to lift. So that's exciting.
Okay, I guess that's all we have on wayfinding. Let's move to action items. And the QuickBooks update is what's on the agenda.
So in 2021, the NDDA purchased QuickBooks software for $365 for bookkeeping purposes. The NDDA had previously expended approximately $3,600 on accounting services. The software was to be a more economical option moving forward, while giving the ability to pull reports and better communicate with the board as well as town staff and various partners. QuickBooks 2021 will no longer be supported starting February 1, 2024. After researching next steps, it was determined that moving to QuickBooks Online will give the NDDA better tools and communication abilities than the current desktop version that will no longer be supported. Moving to QuickBooks Online will cost $30 a month for the first 3 months and $60 a month after. This will be a total of approximately $630 in 2024. So, and I didn't put this in there, but I meant to, I propose that since this wasn't in our original budget, that the funding would come from our traffic and safety budget, which is $60,000. And, you know, we don't normally make too big of a dent in that pool, so taking, the extra money that we will need, from there should not hinder our ability to do things when events come. I don't foresee.
500 and what?
630.
600.
But we have some accounting budgeted. It's just most of that is for Gusto because we already owned our QuickBooks software. So this is an additional cost. And I'm stating that I believe that that would be the line item that we would take it from that would have a minimal impact to DDA projects. So the questions for the board this evening is, does the board have any comments or concerns with moving to QuickBooks Online? And does the board approve the move to QuickBooks Online directly after the meeting? And I have a motion, a possible motion listed for you all as well. And I've spoken with members individually that use QuickBooks Online as we were going through this due diligence process. So I feel really good about the switch. It just is an additional cost, which is why it's back before you all this evening.
Okay, let's entertain the motion if you read it.
Is there any comment from the board?
Yeah, and you,
I just want to say I use QuickBooks Online and it is phenomenal. I love it. I hated the desktop version and it has made my life so much easier because I can access it from anywhere. My bookkeeper can access it from anywhere.
Mhm.
Our accountant can access it to do our end of the year stuff. It's wonderful and like, yeah, I'm sorry we didn't do it sooner, but I am totally in favor.
Any other comments? Okay. Their normal procedure, you have a motion and a second, and then you have discussion according to Robert's Rules of Order, but that's all right. We'll take it out of sequence.
do you want me to state the motion that I have?
Yeah, state the motion.
Motion to approve the move to QuickBooks Online effective January 2024.
Is there a second?
Second.
Well,
Okay.
actually, Kate can't make.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can't, I was just reading, okay, sorry.
So moved.
So moved by Barb, all right, there we go. And then who seconded?
Second.
Thank you, that's what I thought, Scott, all right, thank you.
Do you want an all in favor or you just?
Is that how we need,
We
I was gonna
usually
say
roll call for that.
that was gonna say that's, okay. Trying to keep
Trying
up.
to remember from the last one.
Andrew Dewart,
Yes.
Steve Roundtree,
Yes.
Ron Mitchell,
Yes.
Trustee Corvallin,
Yes.
Barb Hart,
Yes.
Danielle Kraus,
Yes.
Steve Carot.
Yes.
Seeing if maybe. Great, thanks for joining us. Catherine Vallon,
Yes.
you, Scott Pappich,
Yes.
thank you all. Moving on, thank you.
Okay. Item 6.2, summer concert series. Tanya or Andrew?
Oh, doesn't matter.
I
Andrew,
can
wanna
read it.
go? Or,
Hope everyone kind of had a chance to glance at this, but basically the goal is that, you know, this came out of just the backstory, that the desire to have a performance space somewhere, but the realization that we should probably crawl before we walk or walk before we run, and find out if we can actually administer or find someone who can administer concerts, period, on a temporary stage. About 5 to 6 times a year. So I'll just read it. 2024 will be the inaugural year for the summer concert series. This project is intended to stimulate the local economy as well as help build community by providing a free, fun local event ideal for all ages. Nederland has a rich history of musical talent and appreciation that will benefit from a monthly or bi-monthly musical event. Also, there should be an integration with our local nonprofits so they can have an opportunity to fundraise with food and drink. The location for the concerts will be different in order to disperse the economic benefits throughout the town, as well as determine which locations are more favored. Locations could be Chipeta Park, Versio Field, or the closing of specific town streets to be determined. As this is a work in progress, elements might vary. The NDDA will welcome feedback from the business in town. The coordinator hired will be part of any changes in the process, and ideally the coordinator's experience and ability to work with all stakeholders will steer the project towards success. And we listed a bunch of requirements, which I'm not gonna necessarily read off right now. But some of the kind of bullet points would be, we want basically the performers to curate 2 sets of music, 6 events starting towards the end of May and ending at September, various different types of music, reggae, rock, bluegrass, funk, jazz. The curator promoter would need to have insurance and provide basically, you know, put on the whole thing, deal with all town permitting, security, flagging, et cetera, provide monthly report, including estimated attendance, feedback, challenges, recommendations, provide an inclement weather plan, and communicate with local nonprofits to fundraise for sale of food and drink. Make sure there's adequate sanitary facilities, and they will need to promote it and provide detailed information on the contracted musicians. One of the things that was important to Tanya and I is that we want to make sure that some of the, you know, a good amount of the budget is actually going to the artists. So in any case, selection process is laid out, and we talked about some potential schedules. Obviously, I think we'd want to, you know, talk with, get feedback from town, and if there's other events that are happening. But that's the summary of the summer concert series RFP.
And I'll just add that I've heard from 2 people that are interested in response to this RFP, and we're looking for it. So that's good sign. Because one of our attorney's comments was, do you have somebody locally that will be able to do this for you? That was his concern, you know, that this would be a lot of time in Nederland to ask somebody. So he was wondering how broad, and those were some of his questions that he asked.
Hey, Andrew, I have a question. So the food and beverage part of this, is that something that this organizer is going to manage as well, or is that something that we're gonna try to take on to some degree?
No, I think well, I mean, my goal was that the promoter would be working with local, you know, nonprofits and businesses
Yeah.
to deal with beverages.
So I know we talked about this last time, and I don't ever want us to lose the goal of prioritizing local food and beverage providers. And even though they don't all have trucks, we've learned so many times in the past that when food trucks come from outside of our community, our local businesses, some of them, not all of them, some of them suffer. And that's definitely not what we want to do. So I think we want to give our local restaurants and all the food vendors who are local plenty of warning and really give them the opportunity to step up and set up a booth or a tent at every one of these events. And give them preference over outside food trucks.
Yeah, I think our goal was to start with the top of the pyramid to be a local nonprofit. And if none were interested, then to open it to local food and beverage. So, you know, if say Nederland Food Pantry wanted to coordinate with the local, you know, local food and drink, kind of to bring everything under the umbrella, you know, again, I know there's a lot of different ways to do this, but
Yeah.
I think the general intent is to have a local nonprofit be the primary beneficiary if they can, or a couple of local nonprofits, and then, you know, they would roll in local businesses.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
Yep.
I agree with both of you guys. I feel like the hours that we put out for this were like, I mean, everything's kind of in flux, but like 4 to 7, you know, at times where people would still probably go out to dinner afterwards. It was more like you want to have some food there because, and alcohol and soft drinks, just because you gotta have something, but we weren't wanting to have, you know, like 10 food trucks, like Frozen Dead Guy Days or something like that. And yeah, certainly would open it up to any local business to have a food booth. I would say for free, should they choose to, if we can't find anybody else to. Does that sound like kind of same page everybody's sort of on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, the idea isn't to like provide too many amenities at the event, because we want people to go to town and really shop there or eat there, but just to have something so nobody's starving or drinking without eating or whatever.
Yeah, primary thing, concert, music, as opposed to a festival, so a secondary, minor.
Right,
food
I
and
mean, the
beverage.
idea would be people could bring in a picnic, right? Like, that would be great. I mean, probably can't let people bring in their own alcohol. I don't know what the rules is on that, but certainly people could bring in their own soft drinks and picnics and just enjoy, right? That's kind of how I'm picturing it, but I don't know how everybody else wants to picture it.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Tanya, but I think that's what we're looking for feedback on, hoping that our intent was, everyone agrees with the intent and we can, kind of flesh this out and polish it going forward.
So you would bring the application, if people have a month, say, to turn in the application, you would bring them to the March meeting?
But then,
Or-
well, with February, I think the goal at this point, we would have said, I think that some of the timing we had to adjust here, but
Yeah, well,
if we got it, Barb, I think what I talked about with you is that if this is approved tonight, then we would post it, this would post when the following Thursday?
Next Thursday, right?
Thursday, the 18th.
Yep.
okay.
So it would be the 18th through the following, we'd close it
So like
1, 2, 3.5 weeks.
yeah, okay.
And bring it to the February 14th meeting. Because to coordinate all of this over the whole summer with all the stuff, that's a heavy lift for someone to pull off in 3.5 weeks.
Mhm.
I mean, we may have to maybe have a special meeting at the end of February to make this actually realistic and not,
Yeah, because this is actually a really visible thing. You know, if this goes well, it'd be a huge feather in the cap for the whole town and for the DDA. If it doesn't go well, people will say, what are you guys thinking?
Mhm.
So we should be very deliberate about making a good, smart choice. But thanks for doing, you and Tony for doing all the work on this.
Anything further from the board or the committee on this? If not, we'll open it up.
Yeah, this is Steve Perot.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Ron, this, Steve Perot, remote. I just wanted to check in with Tanya and I guess the whole board, Andrew and Tanya. That, like, what happens if things start going wrong? Like you pick a, promoter who seems good at the time and we give them the 10% down or 20% down. And then they get into it and finances aren't working out and they're losing their shirt. What do you guys see as a backup plan or contingency, or how do you get out of a mess, basically a financial mess? And the reason I'm asking is I haven't run the numbers and I don't have the data to run them, but it sounds kind of like 50,000 might be a small amount of money for all that the promoter has to do, in addition to, maybe half of it going to bands. So that came up in my mind. I was just wondering what you guys had thought about that.
oh, that's a good question, Steve. I think, one, as part of the selection process, we want someone who can demonstrate experience and the ability to, connection to the town, someone who's done it before. Having kind of came up with this number based on Jesse, that gentleman the train cars who did his little pop-up festival, or not a festival, pop-up show in the parking lot, and how much it cost him to do that. And mind you, not talking a festival, but, a stage that's up for 2 hours and has a couple of vendors at it. And I think all in, he said, and I think he spent a little too much on marketing personally, but it was like 6,000 or somewhere between $6,000 and $7,000 for one of those events. So you're right. But if it's six events, in one lump sum, well, not giving that all out at once, but this is the trial. There's nothing to say that it can't go sideways, but hopefully through the selection process and someone, that's what one sentence is: failure to illustrate these critical components will disqualify the applicant. So, we hope we get several applicants that meet the basic requirements of experience and ability to book talent on a tight timeline. But, there's no guarantee.
Yeah,
There will be a
There will be a contract, yeah.
yeah,
So
I'd
that
like
could
to
be-
see as part of I think it is in the RFP, we want to see a sample budget, you know, based on real, not just something made up, but like real costs of renting a stage. So that it's not, so there's no surprises. As someone who's, you know, organized, I don't want somebody who isn't transparent, who isn't gonna tell us what things cost, what they're spending on the stage. Because then I'm gonna think that they're, you know, I don't know, I want transparency, and that's part, for me, gonna be a huge part of who we choose.
Okay, great. I didn't read, I mean, I read the whole proposal, but it was, I don't have it all memorized. But I was wondering, like, it seems like if there's a budget that they prepare as part of the application, that would be pretty key. Just to be able, and then you can compare every applicant's budget, you know, like how much did this one say for a stage, how much did that one? And you might be able to ascertain, you know, how realistic and. you know,
Yeah, if it's not there as a bullet point, we should add it maybe, like,
it
provide a
seems like-
sample budget.
The sentence reads, the scope of work should be included detailing the applicant's process, including a timeline for when bullet points will be accomplished, as well as an approximate budget. So,
Yeah, we could be more specific, I guess, and say, approximate budget that's, what do you call it when you break it down, like a breakdown of the budget? Not just like, it'll cost me $3,000. I want a breakdown of what's $3,000.
Right, like a line item.
Yeah, a
Right.
line, you know, we could maybe add a word like that in there. Yeah.
It does seem like that might be able to head off some of the, you know, potential troubles that someone could get into.
Yeah, we want someone to do some research before they tell us they can do it. I think if we do 5 events, that's $10,000, that's $5,000 to put on one event for a promoter if, you know, well, a few thousand anyway. That's the thing, I'd like to see a budget. I think based on what we did with the farmer's market and how much those events cost to put on and what we paid the person there, I mean, it was 5,000 including the band. So I think, you know, so I think we're in the right ballpark based on
Okay,
that
cool.
experience. But again,
Nice.
depends on what they're going to be paying for stage, et cetera. Yeah.
I remember Jesse saying that his budget was 11,000. And are we prepared to reevaluate it if somebody brings back an itemized budget and it's more than what we had thought it would be?
Well, that's what the great thing about RFP processes is it will tell you it'll tell us if we're
Okay,
off.
cool.
If all 3 of these people are telling us and giving us different costs and they are
Yeah.
more, then that's opportunity to
Excellent.
discuss
I mean,
that. But
he had music all day. I mean, it was a killer event. There was nobody there. It was really sad. Not sad. Not that nobody was there, but he had music from like noon till like 2 a.m. I mean, we're talking 3 hours of music. So yeah. But yeah, the
That-
RFP should let us know.
That's the case. I think we really would need to reissue the RFP.
yeah,
Because we don't want
would
to
follow a
end up
transparent
with
process, but
same
that's why you
problem we
follow.
had with the art
And
situation.
then either revise the budget and revise what we're trying to.
Exactly.
I mean,
We can
on one
make
hand, if it comes up too expensive, if we're thinking we're gonna have 6 events, maybe we end up just having 5, you know, and not necessarily do you know what I mean? Like,
Makes
we can
sense.
work with it that way but I really hope we could keep it within the budget.
It's nice that you have the real life experience from the farmer's market that was, you know, 5K.
Yeah, and they were pretty decent bands. You know, I mean, so I would like to maybe spend a little more on the bands, and get even better bands. But let's see what's available because we are kind of like I think in the world of booking bands a little late in the game. But who knows? Maybe we get somebody who's, yeah, and that's the dates can be flexible, right? If somebody said, well, this band can do it on this day, well, we could, I mean, move it around to adjust things a little bit, I think, at this point. I don't know. We'll have to, I'm hoping we get a lot of applicants and that we're overwhelmed with qualified people.
So the goal to have a special meeting and then give this a full month?
I don't, how long are we gonna have it open for? 3.5
It-
weeks?
If it passes and gets, posted in the Mountaineer and on the, I don't know how soon it can get on the town's website. If we assume Thursday, the 18th of January, then that's 3 weeks and 5 days.
Yeah.
It might
Well,
not
yeah, I
be a
think we
bad
would
idea.
have to have one, like, if we brought it to the, if we brought every applicant to the next board meeting, then you guys would have to give us like your top 3 or whatever. I don't know how we would work that out. They're still gonna have to come back again probably, unless we just decide on our own. That's
What do you
something
think
we
is-
should talk about, like, do you wanna do it in which we could get Andrew, myself, and maybe find another couple people who are qualified to wheedle it down to like 4 applicants, and then we bring that to the board at the next meeting? Or do you want to have everybody and then you give us your top 4 candidates, and then me and Andrew and whoever else wants to be on a committee will then select the final?
I'll say
I mean,
typically, the way we do public art RFPs is public art goes through everything and they do all of that work as a committee, and then they bring you the top 3. They bring you who they want and they say who they want, but then they give the other
Gotcha.
options.
Okay, so
Conversation.
either way, what do you guys want it to be like? I mean,
Yeah, all the
I think-
applicants.
A good way. Where the board, the committee is more in charge of, what the vetting and bring us 3 or 4 applicants, And I don't know if it would be like.
would
we
anybody
vote?
else want to be on the committee on this board that would help us? Because probably we would have to do it like the Monday or Tuesday before this meeting of next month and have like a real
Board
quick meeting. Or should we find this
So-
a couple other people?
So unless you want this to be a public meeting, it would have to be just 2 board members, stick with the 2 board members. And again, with public art, the way that typically works is that committee all works together, and then I'm on that call too, and I help with that process, so I would be
Okay,
a part of
so you would
that.
be there too. And does anybody
Yeah.
have a recommendation for somebody in the field that we should approach to see if they wanted to join us for some expert opinion? Anybody?
Andrea has a lot of experience with putting on festivals. I
Uh-huh.
could recommend.
We've heard that she might be responding though.
Yeah, she
Okay.
is.
Oh, I'm out of the ballpark on that one.
I get, the thing that I'm just trying to
Let's
sweat
let
out
Andrew
in my
speak,
head is the
please.
timeline of this,
Yeah.
To go pretty quick.
Yeah, so if we bring, all the applicants, come to the next, or review all the applicants at the next meeting, vote on them. Vote, I think at that point, it's just vote on, I see maybe a couple options. One is give it a little more time. Have us give February 14th for all the applicants, and then have a special meeting a couple weeks later, to select the applicant.
Could you have the closing be like the 10th of February, so you could bring all the applications to the meeting on the 14th and then plan a special meeting a week or 2
That-
later?
That's a good idea, send us a packet, and people can read them, and then we can still
Throwing it out there, that
follow up.
it's Valentine's Day as well.
Time is short already, so
You know,
let's have a
Well, I'm
special
getting
meeting.
mixed messages. Some people are saying they want us to bring the top 3 to 4 candidates to the meeting, and they don't want to go through everybody, assuming we have like 10 people. We might only have 3 or 4 candidates, so that would make it easy. But some people want that, and I'm also hearing bring all the candidates to the next meeting.
Yes,
So we have to first decide that step. What's that going to be like? And then,
Yeah, the room sounds like all the applicants at the next meeting, or
Okay.
shortly.
for all of the applications.
All
the applications.
Not the
Not
what's the difference?
The difference is spending an hour or 2 extra on a meeting when, if we get all the applications, let's say there's 5. And we all can
Yeah.
review them in our packet before the meeting, and we can discuss the 3 we want to meet.
Oh, I
At a-
see. Have interview process
so-
at another meeting.
Whittles it down to whoever you all want to meet. And by going through the actual applications. And there could only be 2, but there could be 10.
Right. Yeah, okay,
Not have-
so you guys get it in your packet for the February 14th meeting. Every applicant. At that meeting, you give us your favorites, and those are the ones that we interview and whittle it down, and then we have a special meeting where we approve that. Yeah? Is that what I'm getting? Okay, got it. Sounds good.
But I hear,
Special meeting be sometime like third week of February or something.
Yeah, something like that, so that it's gonna be it's gonna be fast, but yeah, I think the sooner the better, because people need to start planning.
I agree.
Would that,
Okay.
would that work to have the special meeting on the 21st? That's a week after the regular meeting.
We can plan on that, and hopefully that's every applicant's available to meet with in that week, but yeah.
we can
Should
put
we put
that,
that in the application, maybe, that, you know,
the meeting on the 21st that they need to
Interview.
be able to attend.
you know, possibility between the week of the 14th and 21st be available for an interview, or is that just too much information?
I would have a set date for
It
that.
has,
21st.
yeah,
Set date time.
yeah, set date and time.
And then
Brandon,
Because
could
not,
we,
not every applicant's gonna make it to that step, right?
Question for this group.
Scott?
We had a situation a few months ago, where we put out for an RFP for some other event, and I don't remember the details. We got a
I'm
lot
trying
of
to keep up too.
like
That's
blowback,
what I figured.
somebody
Thank you.
after the fact.
Wait, I'm hearing two conversations. What are you saying?
Is that what it was? Yes. it was.
Oh, was the art.
He was, yeah,
I don't want to go back through that. I just want to know, how do we
I don't think,
circumvent that?
well, I think we,
You just structured this so that won't happen.
Okay, thank you.
But there's always gonna be people that,
I got that.
so, and that's
Yeah, yeah.
kind of, so we just do the right thing and people can come and complain if they have an issue about how it went, and that's what happened, and they were heard, and you all
Right.
responded.
I just want to make sure that when we put out the request, that we've worded it in such a manner that it's like, we're going to make a decision based on the merit of what you give us.
Mhm.
And then we're moving forward.
Mhm.
yeah.
All right, is that the end of the board comment? Because I want to ask for public comment, either online or in the audience.
Andrew, thanks.
Any public comment on this? Kathleen, do you want to comment on this?
Public comment, yeah, Kathleen Chipai, business owner, 20 years, 32-year resident. I like the idea. I also, when I read it, I didn't feel like, I read it as it'd be open, each event would be open to a different person, not that one person was gonna do
No.
all.
No, we're gonna have one person run the whole thing. That means we'd be going through the same process 5 times.
Six? No, why don't you just right now go, who works with one date, or each person gets 3 people, they get 2 events? I also think you don't have to have an event on April 18th. I mean, you're making this up as you go, so you don't, maybe the first event is in May.
Yeah, there's nothing in April, first one will be end of May.
Oh, I thought you said something about April 18th.
No, we're talking like February 21st, like interview, it was February for interview stuff, and then end of May for first.
End of May is the first event.
Mhm.
Okay, well, I just feel like, I like the idea, I like having music, I would think hours, just because it's a lot to put on just like one band. And, I also think that when you pick more than one person, that they have connections in different places, since for musicians, this is a, a more last minute thing, usually people.
Well, that's a good
Number.
point. Just seems, that's a really good point about the different musical connections, but don't you feel like having different people, like if somebody did it all summer, they would get really good at it, and it would be like streamlined. It wouldn't be like reinventing the wheel every time with a new person answering the same questions, and
We're looking for something with somebody who's experienced enough that it's going to go well. It's not really supposed to be just a forum for people to try out being a music.
Well, I don't think it's gonna be very hard because it's not an event. It's a pop-up stage, temporary stage. So it's not like, I mean, I'm taking this as like Tanya was saying, I don't know about food vendors unless there's gonna be music for longer than, you know, for the day. Because you do wanna encourage the people to go eat at the restaurants in
Right.
town.
Just something to
So,
snack on and drink on. I mean, you know.
agree with you on that, and if it's gonna be under 3 hours of music, you know? And I think it'll go over well in the community, and I think it's lacking. But I just want it to be open to as many people as possible. I don't want the town to continuously work with the same people that are running all the events.
I think for me, it's something to think about, especially if we get a lot of super qualified people and we can't make up our mind.
I agree.
But
A lot of qual,
I guess
that's where I'm at.
talk about it more at the next, when we're breaking it down and see. I'd always thought of it as one person because it seems easier just to have one person that understands and you don't have to keep meeting new people and stuff, but I'm not opposed to that if we have a plethora of good people, but also, I see that Steve's got his hand up. I'm sorry, I don't have to talking.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to say that, you know, I could see that, there could be the issue, a problem with multiple people being promoters throughout this series, because you'd have to have communication among them to a certain extent, as far as like who's getting what kind of bands and all that. But, you know, it's not major. But the other thing was, I think for P, if we are thinking that, as Tanya said, if we're going to have multiple qualified people and we'd rather have, you know, a few promoters, like each one taking 2 events or whatever, that should be stated in the RFP that may happen.
Yeah.
So how we phrase that with Net Public Art is we say an artist or a team of artists, if that would help Europe.
Yeah, it seems like some indication that it's not only going to be one, you know, that it might be one, but it could be more. But then again, then you have all the money issues of like, well, then, you know, who gets what amount of money and I mean, it's
Well, I think
minor
it would have to be the same amount per event. I mean.
Well, is
Yeah,
that,
then
is
you
that,
would
is
have to
that
do
as
that.
easy as saying the coordinator or team of coordinators hired will be, you know?
I think you want like one person that's your main person that you deal
Yeah.
with. I mean, when
Right.
you have too many people that you're
You're
trying to
right,
deal
the
with.
coordinator, being a coordinator
Yeah.
doesn't preclude you working with others that can.
Exactly,
Right.
the hiring team that you
Right.
brought it up.
But it's all coming from the budget that they're managing,
Yeah.
not us, you know? And I think the oversight is this board and I going to be doing of it,
Yeah.
because there's no line item for me in this $50,000 budget. So anytime that I'm spending on it goes to admin or away from this if it turned into something. So that's just, we need to, and I do think that probably about, if you did break it up, you would probably want to state the exact number of events and a budget for each of them so that you're, there's equality between the two vendors that you would maybe choose. So that opens up all of that too.
And Andrew, has anybody compared it to town calendar? Like I see a date on there. Is that when Jazz Wine is? I just want to make sure like.
And we
is there
kind
anything in
of, they were
common?
supposed to be determined.
Okay.
Kind of general, you know, all of these could be flexible.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're not, like, you wouldn't want to do an event when there's a bigger event already in town,
Right.
obviously.
Right.
Now that Kate's comment made me think a lot of administration on her end that we're gonna need to pay.
You know, I don't think right now that that's something,
Okay.
because there are some parts that it just can be administration, especially if we are truly handing it off. Like, I'm not spending.
I mean, that's the hope, right? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the whole point of
So
this.
that's when you build in the line item for me. And so that's why I'm saying right now, this is just administration, you know, doing the RFP stuff like that. That's not like a huge time suck. Now, if something changed and I'm managing several different people, then that does change.
Yeah,
How
or
this could-
if you have to babysit, the person's not working out, we'll cross that bridge if we have to.
But just things to think about in all of that.
Okay, I'd like to close public comment and have Andrew present a motion if there's no more public comment. Do I hear anyone who wants to make a comment? Okay, public comment is closed. Andrew,
Or anyone else that can want, that wants to present the motion, but,
say it again.
no, it's just, so,
Just looking for that.
Ready to go. Move to approve the 2024 Summer Concert Series RFP for release.
Second.
All right, are we going to approve the RFP as it stands right now? Because there were a couple of suggestions of addition.
Yeah, I think, I'm just thinking about a pair and.
So Andrew, we have the option, if we get multiple
Mhm.
proposals, we always have the option to make a revision at that time and say, hey, here's what we're gonna do. We don't have to labor over that today.
Okay, perfect.
I think what you did is, Tanya did is good.
So I move to approve the 2024 Summer Concert Series RFP for release.
Is there a second?
Second.
Tanya seconds. Okay,
I
Kate,
second
please
it.
call the roll.
Because I thought that was Catherine's actually their name. Andrew Dewart,
Yes.
Steve Roundtree,
I'm gonna recuse myself from voting on this just based on participation in events through Eldora. And I think it's best to just avoid an appearance of a conflict of interest.
thank you. Ron Mitchell,
Yes.
trustee Corvallin,
Yeah, yes.
Barb Hart,
Yes.
Danielle Kraus,
Yes.
Steve Carell, Catherine Bauer,
Yes.
Pappich.
Yes.
Thank you all. All right. Now on to the beautification.
Let's discuss the beautification building.
All right. Let me get myself over. Tonight we have Judy with us here for our 2024 beautification budget. Our master garden has completed the proposed 2024 beautification budget, which is itemized below in your packet. The budget is similar to that 2024, except that in 2023, except that this year funding will be used to maintain additional areas and all pots will be redone as a result of the last season. It was requested that a portion of the beautification funding be utilized to fund 2 seasonal town of Nederland park staff. These requests have been incorporated into the budget that you see. For financial considerations, a $60,000 budget was proposed through the budget process for beautification. 34,000 of it was to be available for the master gardener's use, and the remaining 26,000 will be available with the town of Nederland. If you are on board with everything tonight, it will come back next month as a resolution for the full amount, for the full 60. But we're going into the detail about what is in question, which is what Judy budgets for flowers and everything over the course of the year. And so Judy's here to answer any questions about anything. And so we have the question tonight for you all is do you approve of this budget for beautification?
And I could briefly go over it, just might as well. It is very much like last year. We have 4,000 more in the budget this year than we did last year. And that 4,000, we have an increase for the labor of $3,250. And that comes out to 5 extra hours a week for my labor. And in that 5 extra hours, we're adding the Peace Garden, which we're gonna get clear on which one that is. And then the town entry bed, we're gonna do that one this year. And we have 10 new bridge boxes. So 10 new boxes and 2 new beds. I figure 5 hours a week will cover the additional labor. And so that's where that increase in labor comes. Materials, everything was emptied out. So this year it's all new soil. It's going to be a lot of fertilizer, probably a couple more tools. So that was an increase in our materials budget of $1,400. But last year in the budget, we had to buy a water cart, which was $1,500. So really, we're just taking the expense that was the water cart and putting it into materials because we'll need more materials. And then DDA labor is the same. Our greenhouse, Duran's, they're awesome to work with. We have 10,000 for their budget. Andrea sent over a whole proposal, which flowers were going where, and we tweaked it a little bit. She had us at $9,665, which was almost our entire flower budget. So what happened though is I told her, we have 3 new pots that we're putting up around town. So she thought I meant we wanted 3 new pots and we're gonna plant them. So we're cutting those expenses out because we already have the pots. And so that's gonna save us almost $2,500 in the budget. Okay, so now our total flower budget right now is $7,190, our total expense. So we do have a nice surplus for the flower budget of almost $3,000. And that will get used up in the fall. This fall, I'd like to do mums in the pots. When the pots are getting slow, we'll put mums in for color. And then I also want to buy a bunch of bulbs and plant bulbs in the fall so that in the spring we have those coming up. So we have some extra money to do that. And we also are going to do, Hannah, she's the lady that supplies, they give free flowers for the veterans bed. So we won't have that expense. And she's also going to supply the flowers for the pedestrian bridge. And we budgeted 500 for that. So pretty simple budget. And that all adds up to exactly $34,000.
Thank you.
So, yeah, any questions
Yeah.
about where it's going?
The bulbs,
Yes.
gladiolus, tulips.
There'll be mostly daffodils for the bulbs and tulips. We have a little issue with rodents that like to eat bulbs all winter. So I find that the daffodils are probably the best to come up.
How about the roundabout? Did you smother the roundabout with those?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what-
Yeah. That's really what motivated me to do bulbs, was looking at the roundabout.
Good,
So,
that's
yeah.
great. We see eye to eye on that one. I'd overall like to see the roundabout louder.
Yes, well, and you know, something that's interesting that's happening is the roundabout is very flat and level with a bit of a slant. And I would like to see it mounding up more.
Do you want to level it? I mean,
Well, yeah,
I would like to do that
okay.
because I
Level
put a
it.
little in the budget, maybe not this year, but next year, because you've got the hydrant right there
Mhm.
and it's not really well protected. And that's the low side of the roundabout.
Yes,
So if we were to put a decorative rock wall or just a river rock wall that went up a foot.
just
and
a
half,
retainer, yeah,
because we have one big rock there now,
yes.
and I think it's too big. I think it detracts. I'd rather have 1.5 foot rocks all the way around to level it,
Mhm.
because then I think you get more effective watering for one thing.
Yes, and we would see the flowers better too.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm working for is also, we put in 30 perennials last summer. And so I'm wanting, you know, every year they'll get bigger. And so what the idea is that they're gonna be filling in more and more too. So like,
Is any of that lavender?
yes, we have like 3 lavender, I think, out there. So, you know, the idea is let the perennial bed
Yeah.
come into its own.
That'll make it louder
Yeah,
in a year or two.
yeah.
Well, in terms of, we're gonna have to get permission, I guess, from the highway department or from CDOT.
So we're not blocking.
Around it, you think? Yeah. They're making a wall higher.
Yep.
Now, is there any objection?
Just talking about the lower side.
The lower side, yeah, bring it up to level, so, yeah.
Mhm.
You're losing a lot of water, or you're gonna have to water a lot more if you use less water
Yeah,
because of that
the
slope.
slope. You know, I did put a few little retainers in there last year, but they're like this high. And it's more like edging that's in there. So there's some terracing in there.
Well, if you don't want it going, I'd say pretty much close to a semicircle in terms of a wall to get it level.
Mm-hmm. All around that lower
At
side.
the lowest point, I think you're gonna be 1.5 feet.
Mhm.
I think it drops that
Is
much.
that something that the town would be able to do with us? Can we do that, or can I talk to Nikki about that, or?
We just, well, either way, I don't know. Somebody's gotta construct the wall, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, guys, before we get too far into walls and mounting up the dirt, I want us to be conscious of the fact that it may not seem like it because it's a circle, but there really is a lot of like subconscious ability to drive safely that gets taken away. when you Can't actually see what's happening on the other side of the circle. I want to make sure that whatever gets built up or grows up as perennials doesn't block view directly across the circle for anybody who's in the circle.
Yes, I was cognitive.
15 years ago, there was an 8-foot mound there.
Yeah.
But
I don't see
lavender doesn't grow over 1.5 feet.
higher than the pot that's in the middle.
Nice.
I don't want to be too curmudgeon.
No, absolutely. It's a consideration.
So we'll budget for next year, or I'll propose for wall, probably taking a couple thousand.
Okay. Yeah, we'll look more at that for sure.
Because we gotta go to CDOT, we can do that this year.
Yeah, so any other questions about where the money will be going for, and the additional, the 26,000 for the two employees that are coming on? Their work is gonna really be involved with the weeding and more of that, maintenance.
This is Tanya online. I just had a suggestion for the circle, and I mean, I know you probably get a lot of them, but since I have you here, I have a lot of luck with catnip. It's a perennial with these pretty purple flowers that the bees love, and it grows like crazy, and it spreads, and it likes crappy soil, and I think that would be really pretty around there. I think it would fill in really
Yeah.
nicely and be really pretty. I'm just giving you a suggestion. I know you get a lot of them, but just thought I'd throw it out there. So anyway, thank you.
Cool.
Everything looks great usually in the summer. I love it. Thank you.
Hey, have we still got part of this beautification project that has to do with disposal trash? Did that go away?
No, that's what the town staff is for, to help pick up trash. That's what Nikki requested.
Not all weeding, but it's all.
Correct.
No, it's opening bathroom, it's doing chores is what she calls it, which was basically what everybody had requested. It's making sure there's not trash laying around, being an ambassador for town. So,
But she was really against adding more trash cans. So are we not
Yes.
adding more trash cans? We're just keeping that one on First Street?
yes, and because she said that she had another one that she could place. So that was the conversation, was that she would place that can, take the pizza box, no pizza box signs off, and that it was more about helping her have staff that could do chores to pick up that trash and do what were considered to be eyesores.
Great.
So, no, because it'll come back. This is.
Any
for
more
discussion.
discussion?
So it'll come back next month.
The public, anyone from the public, online, present? Sir.
So nothing in the budget to beautification of my face with plastic surgery.
Don't think so.
Kathleen Chipeye, 32-year resident, 20-year business owner.
I'm for everything on the flowers. I'm not I'm against hiring 2 new seasonal staff. I'm really surprised the advice was not to have more trash cans on First Street, because I'm on First Street and I pick up a trash bag's worth of trash on my own while I'm in town, during the business day, about once a week, a full trash bag. And it's because there's no trash receptors on First Street. It makes no sense to me. So as a business owner on First Street, I'm gonna say I would prefer to have more cans. I think there should be 2 on each side of the street, to be honest with you. And, I just don't understand how many staff it takes. I can just remember that the town had less than a dozen people on staff until like 2010. And then it just blew up and the town was cleaner. The trash cans were emptied. I don't know. I just don't understand why it's gonna take 2 more, $26,000 more to pick up the trash on First Street or pull weeds on First Street, which is something else I do all over town, is I pull weeds. Those white plants drive me insane, and the fact that they're all over town property drives me insane. And then it spreads to the private property, and it's bothersome. So, but I question the additional $26,000 and 2 employees. And I also, as a business owner, I want more trash cans on First Street. I think it's pathetic. Because people don't put their trash in their pockets, and, they throw it around and the wind blows it right into my lilac bushes, and the way my business is set up, it catches the wind and all the trash. All my public benches, that's what's sitting under that is trash, cups, and just nasty stuff. So I would prefer more trash cans.
Thank you, Kathleen.
I would like to make a comment. We do have a big trash problem on First Street, and we do need to look for solutions for it. Any other comments? Let's move to the next item. Bryant House.
That was an action item though? Was it?
No,
No, it was just discussion. It'll be action next month with the resolution. for the full budget.
This is Tanya. I want to piggyback on what Kathleen said. I remember that she was against more trash cans, but I thought we were gonna have this come back and discuss still perhaps fashioning something so that people can't put their household trash in town trash cans. But I didn't think we had completely nixed it. So I personally would like, when this comes back, to have a bit in that budget with the trash cans, because I think it's ridiculous to only have 1 on First Street. So I don't know if anyone else agrees with that, but I don't agree with Nikki on this one. I'm mostly.
Well,
Yeah.
that was the way the conversation ended. So what would have to happen is you would have to take money to pay for a trash can. Because this is how it leveled out.
I'd
So
like to give Nikki.
I remember it ending that way, unless I wasn't there, but I remember it was gonna come back to,
To your February meeting, I think you need to give her an opportunity to explain her kind of thought process behind this before.
Which we did discuss it at length, and why we don't have trash cans at the shopping center because of the problems of them overflowing with people bringing their household.
I guess that what I'm hearing is maybe a desire to kind of revisit this conversation, and I would like to for that.
Yeah. Great.
So in February, when the resolution, you want to have Nikki there to discuss a trash can
yes.
and that, okay.
Modified.
Is that
So
something
that
that
it
towns
fits.
pay for, not instead of the DDA? I mean, that is a town thing too, right?
You can have
Since our
additional,
budget is
have additional
not
trash cans.
Should town buy trash cans?
But we also did not budget for trash cans.
Yeah.
So.
I just don't want to take away from the town.
When we have that discussion at the next meeting, we make a distinction between a dumpster that sits somewhere and small trash cans that are close to the establishments, so that people can put small things in there, but they can't put TVs, household garbage
or leave
Let's,
pouches.
let's make a distinction when we have that conversation.
I'd like to, I was one of the big proponents about funding this, but the main reason was additional cans. And Nikki was very adamant, you know, more hands. But I think it continued to, you know, that's where the conversation circled. And I thought we ended up with, let's at least try to get a couple of cans that were modified so that, you know, people couldn't, that people will always abuse trash cans, but I'm in agreement that we need more cans, you know, but I know Nikki feels strongly that.
Well,
And that's why she had said her compromise was that one can, but let's bring her back. We'll have her talk and give her her voice and you all can, I'll lay out some different scenarios and we'll bring that back with the resolution.
well, the problem is far bigger than just the additional people.
Yes.
The private dumpsters throughout the First Street area are overflowing all the time with people who come in late at night and put their trash not in them, because most of them are locked. They put it on top of it.
That's really.
And as a result, the ravens get into it, and they tear it all apart. And this is something that needs to be addressed another time, with a lot more stress and emphasis in terms of the general cleanliness of the entire business area. It's a mess. It needs attention. This discussion is not that one at this point. But I think we need to look at it, very soon, because it's gonna get worse. And I'll just give you an example. The fact is that Crosscut Pizza sells in the summertime, 600 pizzas a day that go out in boxes. And those are all over the First Street area. And then when the dumpsters get filled with them, people come at night and throw their bags of trash on top of the dumpster. So this is a big problem and it needs a solution and we need to address it. So I'm sorry to inject it into this conversation, but I think it's germane. Any other comments? Okay, let's go to our last item, which is the Bryant, no, it isn't the last item, second to the last. Discussion of the Bryant House.
So you all had asked me to do a little research about the Bryan House, providing you some historical information. Emmett Hoyle is here, and then I think Jesse Ansari is online. Not sure I'm the best person to provide you that. I mean, I pulled documents for you and created a little aim, but really I think would like to turn it over to Emmett to kind of go over the Historical Society's history, the work that they've done trying to get that historical preservation designation, the arrangements with RTD and kind of where they stand. So Emmett, president of the Nederland Area Historical Society, and then again, Jesse Ansari online, who is the co-treasurer. She is the president, and Emmett is the vice president. So Emmett, thank you for coming.
Sure. Happy to be here. I'll try to make this brief. I lived in the town when it happened, but I was not a part of the historical society when it occurred. That when RTD created the parking lot, there were several historic structures there. The only one that was preserved was the Bryant House because it did have historic significance. The previous historical society members claimed that the logs used in the construction of the Bryant House date back to 1859. I haven't seen any independent data or paperwork or studies done to validate that. The house originally existed in Dayton, which was flooded by Barker Reservoir and relocated up to the RTD parking lot area. And a man by the name of Mr. Bryant lived in that house. He was the foreman of the Wolf Tongue Mill. And the Wolf Tongue Mill is claimed to have milled the silver bricks that were used in President Grant's visit to, is that Central City or I believe that was in Central City, and they laid the street in these silver bricks. So there's historic significance to Mr. Bryant. The previous membership at the time that construction occurred, preserved the building. They were able to fundraise a concrete foundation as well as plumbing, sewer, and water tap into that site. The building was placed on top of it and it has remained there derelict ever since. The Historical Society's original intent was to either create a concessionary or sublease to an entrepreneur to create a concessionary, and also potentially provide a bathroom for people taking the bus. The membership lacked the initiative to accomplish that at the time, and so let me back up a little bit more. The structure of how that deal worked out is the RTD owns the land under the building. The building itself is owned by the town of Nederland. And the Historical Society had a 20-year lease on the building, which expires in 2025, which is, in my previous email, I stated 2024, correction, it's 25, is when that is set to expire if you consider the lease valid, which we have never paid rent for the structure, and there's no record of transaction of that having occurred between the town and the Historical Society. So, you know, as I also stated in that email, our current membership lacks the interest or initiative to want to continue with that project. One of the big hiccups in the 2003 to 2007 range, when there was really a movement afoot to actually do something, was to get RTD's sign off on all of this. And so I revisited a discussion with the power that be at RTD in 2021. They are open to ideas. However, they do not want to do anything that encumbers their land. And so for the Historical Society to find the money to make the improvements on the property, we would have to seek a historic designation, which encumbers the land. So we essentially lack the funds and capital to make the necessary improvements to beautify the property to a sufficient level to where somebody could actually be in it. I was in there recently and it's decrepit. I mean, everything needs work. Every surface needs touched. It's not, it'd be cheaper to build something, frankly. So it's in this position where we preserved it to some extent historically, and now something needs to happen, obviously, and I'm sure you were all in agreement with that. So that's the historic brief there for you. I had made an idea that I had, which was knowing that the DDA does have a source of funds and maybe a deeper pocketbook than the Historical Society, that they could assume a lease with the town. They could fund the improvements of the building and then potentially sublease it to an entrepreneur or any other number of ideas. I know that Ron had in the past suggested turning them into bathrooms for RTD. All of these things would have to go before RTD to achieve an approval and a thumbs up before anything could be acted upon on the part of the town or the Historical Society or anybody. So it's really in this kind of conundrum of ownership interests, and it's a in my personal opinion, a poorly structured deal from the get-go.
So can I ask you a question? Because I have talked to you about this before, years ago. If it was your choice or your building, would you tear it down?
Me personally, or as
Not as you just said, the Historical Society is not interested in having, moving forward with it in any way because of the financial burden of this building that has become an eyesore on the corner of town. Personally, I would tear it down. Would you invest money in this building that is so decrepit? There's not really, you would be rebuilding it. You could just build a new building there. Like, does it have any significance that we need to keep this building, or should we look at long-term the option of tearing it down and RTD can build their own bathrooms? Right?
That's a good question that you pose. There's also some historical information that's significant to that, which is at the time that the move occurred for the Bryant House, the town of Nederland commissioned a study, which is included in the information that was provided to you. It was RMC Consultants. And there's a highlighted line in there that said that the building didn't have significant physical integrity to achieve landmark designation. Previous members of the Historical Society would beg to differ.
Right.
And I'm torn because I'm not a preservationist. I'm kind of progressive in the idea of real estate and construction, finding uses for existing buildings. So personally, I would tear it down, but with the Historical Society hat on, I would let the board make that collective statement. So that was my personal opinion.
Yes,
The board
yes.
would have a separate.
Oh, I want to piggyback on Barb's question. So there's, part of that question is whether or not what's there is be preserved or saved. The other part of the question that I'm not sure we're touching on is, does it have enough historical value that it's of interest? And if you're saying that the Historical Society isn't at the initiative, the interest in continuing to work with this thing, is it both of those, one of those, or other things?
When I make that statement, I'm saying that those who are involved in the Historical Society have shown not enough interest for us to pursue doing anything about it.
It kind of sounds like, I don't think it's still have enough historical value.
That's not what I said.
Previous members of the board thought that it was of historical value. Current members of the board don't have the ability to pursue it.
And there's, Miranda sent out the architectural monitoring form that was shared, and that's a huge step towards seeing if it something to save.
How many square feet is it?
Something like that, yeah. About 7.
Emmett, I wanted to ask you a question. If we, or somebody, were to entertain or try to redevelop a new building with the exact characteristics of that, same windows, same doors, make the recreation as close to what the structural integrity that would pass all codes, which would mean, of course, double pane windows. It's got single pane windows now, but that won't pass muster in this community's codes. Would the Historical Society be willing to participate in a project in part in doing something like that? Do you think, I know you probably can't speak for them with that specific question right now, but you think the Historical Society board would entertain partial participation in terms of partnership with the DDA?
I could bring it to the board and ask that question to them.
How much do you think you could contribute?
Not a lot. We're kind of a starved to death operation. I mean, our
20,
budget is
50,000, 100,000?
maybe $20,000 a year if we fundraise enough. So
20,000 a year?
a year. There's, I mean,
No.
most of that are incurred are paid for personally by membership. So there's no coffers from which to spend from. So we could be maybe in kind, if the membership is interested enough, they could be more in kind, but we're not, you know.
Well, I think we'd have to, or whoever takes it on as a project, have to have their eye on a return, either in leasing it or making some deal with RTD. RTD is not gonna give you an interest in designated as a historical site because they've essentially given title to the land.
I'm in agreement with you on
Yeah.
that. There's
They do.
previous membership that would
So,
vehemently deny that.
RTD is gonna, in my opinion, retain the right to have it torn off. They might entertain the idea that if a new building was built there and they decided to put a second story on the parking lot, which right now reimburse whoever the amount of the cost of construction or a depreciated amount, say they leave it 10 years and then it's got a 50-year life. They might give 4/5 of the money back, but that's a hard sell. So I guess we have to start with finding out what RTD would do now. And I probably, if we poll the board, I think everybody's gonna agree with you and Barbara that it isn't worth trying to save under any circumstances. I mean, I've gone out there, you know, re-roofed it, put tarps on it, tried to save it, but the years have gone by since those things happened. And it's fallen apart, period. And it's because of this lack of interest, and that's okay. But you still have a good foundation that something could be put on. If RTD would agree, most likely to remunerating whoever did it. If the DDA wanted to, you know, put out an RFP or took it over for the town, I don't think the town has much interest in doing anything with it. Am I right or wrong?
The board hasn't weighed in, so I can't comment on
Can't say.
that. Yeah.
But I think we ought to look for a comment from the board at some point. If we pursue this
That seems like a
and
specific
work backwards.
proposal, Ron, and I think that if we could articulate that to RTD and get their opinion on it, then that's a great first step. I mean, that's better than all, there's a path forward there.
Did I hear you correctly to say that, you know, to get a new lease from the RTD for the footprint, but build a new, different building?
It's not a lease.
Yeah, that's what I'm,
Between RTD and the town is not a lease.
No.
It's RTD owns the land, town owns the building.
yeah, the agreement with the town, the license appears to have expired.
No, I'm right around, I have to look back.
So the license that RTD gave the town has expired.
Well,
I don't know why they would want the town.
That's the way I read it.
Right, if it gets taken down, I don't see why town would
Yeah.
have their say about any of it.
I don't know why, yeah. I mean, we could spend our money on something like that would be really impactful on the town instead of a building that is.
Very expensive, 700 square feet.
Just for the sake of argument, let's poll each board member as to whether or not they personally would tear it down or try and save it. Does anybody have an objection to that poll?
I object to that because I don't think we have enough information to make that pushes us down the slope of the decision before we don't have much info.
No, I think you got pretty, Andrew's a builder. He's looked at it. He doesn't think it's worth saving. I've looked at it.
Well, I mean, I've worked on some landmark historical houses in Boulder where, you know, we have to take apart and re-mill exact historically accurate pieces. And if I'm looking at this through the lens of, okay, if we were gonna attempt to take this thing apart, use as much of the original stuff as possible, re-mill original period pieces, put it back together with energy compliant codes and on building envelope, et cetera. I mean, I could easily see it being in the $1,000 to $1,500 a square foot to renovate, you know, $750,000 or more.
All right, so can I ask a different question? If this
Thank you.
If this were to just be dismantled and taken away, hasn't been paid attention to for years and years and years, nobody in town's expressed interest in it. Do you think that people would then say, what the hell did you guys do to the Bryan House?
Yeah.
We tore it down because it's a nice sort of fire.
So it's,
It's never.
It's a.
It's gonna.
Yeah, somebody will say.
Yeah, we don't, if it isn't torn down pretty soon.
The backup for
Wait a
that
minute.
decision.
Total confusion. Scott has the floor.
should this be a public conversation, just even briefly, and let people chime in publicly before we take any kind of action? Because it may have, for some people, some historical abstract value that can't be replaced by a new building.
Well, then they need to step up and talk to Emmett and get the project going, but they haven't, and he's tried.
I think
He doesn't necessarily want.
Some of the other thing, let me just key in on
Hey, you
that.
guys, this is Tanya, and I'm sorry, I can't hear you very well. Are you guys saying we should tear it down?
Oh.
Nothing.
Like that, like the general consensus over in town here, or?
No, we said it's already been torn down. We just.
What's that?
So absolutely, people will come out of the woodwork and criticize it, including those individuals who were involved in saving it in the first place.
This is kind of put your money where your mouth is. I mean,
So we can't do anything without the town having some say in this, so it
Of course
seems
we
like the town
that's why this is the discussion.
needs to
Right,
have the
well-
discussion, not us.
Right, and the DDA could make a recommendation that you'd like to see the board engage in this same discussion.
I think the fact it's I read a lot of the backstory of that and having it, been moved once and then hearing that a lot of the land under it was kind of excavated prior to the historical, kind of some of the historical preservation. A lot of the artifacts from the site have actually been stored somewhere. They're in museums elsewhere.
I found them
Okay.
in a box.
All right. So.
In the closet next door.
They're stored somewhere.
Yeah, but
They are
not
preserved.
professionally and not.
Yeah,
and
they're not curated.
And you're right, and the items themselves are of, not great historical significance, frankly. But history is history, right? And you only
Yeah.
get one chance to preserve it, and so that was the thrust with doing it originally. But, back to the building construction itself, it's been renovated multiple times throughout the years. The only
It's got
essentially old historic part of it are the floorboards. I mean, you walk inside, it looks like the 1960s. So what are you preserving?
Can you preserve the floorboards and
I'll
when
buy
you
the
rebuilt the
floor-
west wing, can we put them there? I mean, it's the only thing worth preserving. Like, there's gotta be something that could be done with those floorboards that
I'll
would
buy
like make sense.
It'd be nice to see a kind of a work session or a dialogue with, BOT or town staff to figure out, okay, as you said, put your money where your mouth is. It is history. At the same time, I drive by it multiple times a day and it does look better than the burned shell of the building next door, but by a whole lot, so. Yeah, I mean, I don't wanna. I don't want.
That's a place we could put it eventually.
Right, move it just across the street.
Scott, some of the board members here, like a couple years ago, when I first started on the board, we approached this and tried to find solutions. So some of us have more knowledge about the background of it and are like, let's just tear it down.
Okay, so here's an idea. If at any point in time, over the next 5 to 10 years, we have on our agenda to build a small building, I'm thinking something I'm thinking of something small like the visitor center. If we have anything that we're gonna build that's a small, single structure, what if we made a plan or proposal to ourselves in the town that we build as close of a replica as we can to the original Bryan House or whatever we perceive the Bryan House to be? And that's our historical preservation. And it gets used as a visitor center or as I don't know what, whatever we need a few years down the road.
Well, most history is preserved in photographs, books. And there's no reason this couldn't be significantly one of them. There's 4 books that I know of about Nederland and its history done by locals that are very good. They're well researched and well done. And so I think the direction, we're going over time. But I think our next step should be to approach the board, see what the board of the town would like to do, and then revisit this again. Because I agree with you. I think that the replica could be done in a significant use found for. First,
Sure.
then I think we'd have the ability to do something that is kind of halfway in between. It'll be in the history books, it'll be in the photographs, but yet there'll be something there that we could be proud of as a community to say, well, we did our best because we had a fire hazard and we couldn't, it just wouldn't meet the current codes, and you have to do that. And the ones that Andrew has done, most likely cost twice as much as if he could have rebuilt them. But the people had the funds or the wherewithal or the designation was there to do it, and they hired him to do it.
I mean, that is one thing that the Historical Society lacks the teeth to enforce any preservation effort, as does the town of Nederland, as far as I'm concerned. So there really is no preservation initiative or definition or anything like that. And, you know, credit to those who came before on the Historical Society to try and make some initiative towards preservation.
Yeah.
But what are
Well,
you observing? And then the other comment I would make is, you see this in other towns too, where they take historic structures up and move them, and then there's a parking lot of them.
Yeah.
And they're all just sitting there, and it's kind of like, all right, you know, what do you do? What do you do with these things?
Yes, they just sit there.
You essentially need an entrepreneur to come in there and run a business out of them, or turn them into housing, but you can't do it on the RTD lot because the zoning isn't there and they're not gonna let you, so.
Well, they might come to some midway thing. I mean, they know it's a fire hazard. They know that something needs to be done. They've said, come with a concrete proposal and we'll consider it. But they don't want to talk about it. But I think that's where we're at with RTD.
I have not engaged RTD about this at all.
Okay.
So I think any recent conversation would be the last conversation Emmett had.
Which was quoted in that email that I had sent out.
Right.
Okay, well, let's kind of get a consensus and see if the Board of Trustees will take up the subject. And my guess is they'll throw it right back in our lap.
I just don't even think, I would say, due to the lack of urgency, this is not something I would recommend going before this current board. They have a lot to accomplish before they're done as a group. And so this would be a new board.
Well, would we be out of place to do what Emmett did and go talk to RTD and say, we're having this discussion?
I mean, it's not
They
our,
want to plan.
our building to have a conversation.
We've got no skin in the game.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, my opinion is that if the town approached us with an ask, then fantastic, but right now it's somebody else's building
Yeah.
on a different person's land.
Right.
And nobody has interest in doing anything with it, and I mean, I learned something about it, so thank you for like unearthing all the documents. I think the history is.
I would
But
bring this forward. I think, yes, you could ask the new board, we could bring it to whoever the mayor ends up being. We can talk with the mayor about kind of how they want to proceed, but it's not urgent for me they're trying to accomplish a lot in 3 months.
oh, it's only 3 months.
I mean, it feels like at some point, unless there's the concern of a derelict building sitting for 20 years that nobody wants to do anything to. And
I know some guys who would love to have it for a few hours.
Yes.
Fire department.
We'd love to train on stuff like that.
Set it on fire. Turn it out, just kidding.
I'd like the floorboards before you tore it.
There you go.
I mean, let me tell you that I found an old article from like 2006. This whole conversation I just had,
Yeah.
back in 2007.
Yes.
It's an eyesore,
Yes.
you know, everything we just talked about.
So
So the can just gets kicked.
she's willing to buy the
I'm willing to
floorboards
buy the
and
floorboards.
you
If I
can
make
make
a
for the
plan for that
historical
floor,
society,
guys
so I think we just had a
To
solution.
sell me the boards and let him burn it down.
He's gonna fight.
practice stopping.
I think a bit of an insult to its history.
You're right.
Yes.
So I think that's out.
I would
But
preserve.
my comment
Yes.
is just simply, it's either gonna fall down, it's gonna get vandalized, or it's gonna burn down. And we need to consider some alternative, and if taking it down is one of them and just leaving the foundation there, that might be one alternative. But I'm with Scott, I'd like to see a recreation if that was practical.
Practical, yes.
Okay, that's the
It may be
functional
practical,
word.
but not on that site.
That's perfectly
Yeah, I'm
fine.
sorry.
It may be practical, but it's not gonna be practical on that TV land,
That's not where it was in the first place anyway, right?
just because they're gonna limit the usage. So if you rebuild it,
But
what
we
do you
gotta
do?
ask. I mean,
You have
they
to
may
ask.
say, sure, you can do anything you want on a month-to-month basis. You wanna invest $500,000 to put a building, oh, sure, we'll let you do it. But if we decide next month to put a second story on the parking lot, we're gonna tear it down. That might be the
Right.
deal. So then we have to decide, is that a smart deal? And of course, the answer is no. So maybe tearing it down, filling it with dirt and pumping flowers there is what we could do with it. That's about all.
What about moving it?
Yeah.
Is it worth moving?
You can't, Tanya, it is so decrepit and so structurally unsound that if you move it, it'd fall apart as you
Okay.
tried.
Okay, well then I guess you guys are right.
Again, are we gonna just let it fall down or are we gonna let it burn down? So that's, I guess let's table this until the new board arrives.
Great.
Bring it back up in
Think of how much-
April after the election.
Yeah.
And, just, you know, I've been interested in this for the 20 years it's been sitting there.
Yeah, I know, you've put money in there.
I know, it's a shame.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame, and for you to come to this conclusion.
Danny
that
Martin and I,
it's down is impressive.
15 years ago, covered the damn thing with a 60-foot square tarp, which lasted a couple of years, and then it fell apart. And I want to correct the record here, for sure. The Historical Society paid for the current roof that's on it. I didn't. You put in there that I paid for the roof. I paid for the tarping 15 years before. I didn't pay for the current roof. So I just want to make sure everybody knows that.
It did say that in the packet.
So I think I didn't write that, so that would have been pulled from the maybe the Mountaineer article, because I didn't write anything about any.
Oh, okay. You're absolved.
Thank you.
Anyway, okay, let's table this till after the election. But I definitely want to bring it back up, get the board's direction, whoever they are at the time. And either tear it down. I'd sure hate to see that foundation. They spent a lot of money. The sewer's in, it meets code. The foundation meets code.
Yep.
The electrical's in, there's a meter there.
Maybe RTD will put a bathroom there.
What?
Maybe RTD can put a bathroom there because the foundation's already there, then they can build on their own land, put a bathroom in for the people using the bus.
Yeah.
Let's
but
just give
will
them
they?
the-
And the answer is
let's give them
probably,
the-
because they're gonna say he's gonna maintain. I know, I've talked with RTD myself
Yeah.
years ago, and they're gonna say, okay, they'd be willing to put the bathroom there, but they wouldn't maintain it.
Right.
And the minute it was a mess, they'd send somebody up and be on whoever. So that means either DDA would have to take responsibility for maintenance.
I'll maintain it if I could live there.
We could put a house there. I mean, there's,
RTD won't let you do that.
Yeah, they won't.
look, it's the same thing.
Can we do a fund?
Everybody's gonna look at return on investment, and if RTD only gives a monthly lease, or maybe they give a 5 year.
I know. I'm thinking the same thing. I drink that.
There's
I'm
a
sorry?
request for a 5-minute break.
Yes.
Okay, request for a 5-minute break.
Yes,
Anybody
it
object?
just has a hand up. It's probably pertaining to this discussion.
Yeah, I was just going to add something real small comment. This is Jess, the president of the Historical Society. Hey. Just to add that I think it really is much less to do with a lack of interest for the Bryant House. The Bryant House does have historical significance, being one of the oldest structures in Boulder. So I don't think any of us are discounting that. But just to know that the Historical Society is a very small group of volunteers, 5 people. And we are already overseeing the upkeep of the steam shovel, which is a huge draw for downtown development and tourism. We already run and maintain a museum in a town-owned building, which is a huge undertaking. And that already has too few resources and help to run it. And a bunch of other stuff that the Historical Society is doing too, with very few people running it. I personally would like to see more town effort and more DDA kind of encouragement going towards the preservation of the working museum that we're currently operating. So it's just a matter of where kind of our priorities fall. And the Bryant House is just falling lower on the list due to kind of the massive amount of work that would need to go into doing anything productive with it. Thanks, Emmett. You covered all the bases.
Thank you,
Alright.
Jess.
Thank you,
I
Jeff.
want to mention too that the Gillespie House is not in the DDA district, which makes it so that the DDA cannot put money into the Gillespie House, but the steam shovel is.
Yeah.
And maybe could be approached later down the road, but because of where our district ends and the very strict rules that we live under, unfortunately, we couldn't do anything with the Gillespie House. And
I know
that's
that. I wonder if there's anything we can do in the future to incorporate that. The one town-owned building that is a functioning like town operated museum in town cannot be supported by the DDA, and it just seems bizarre. So yeah, whatever we could do to remedy that would be awesome.
I'd like to see that and the community center be incorporated, but it's, because the community center is also not in the district. So,
No, but the museum is. You're saying the museum you'd like to see, right, Jesse?
but it's not in the
Yeah,
DDA
in the district, we're 1 block away from, the roundabout. It seems like we should be considered downtown.
Right, but the museum currently is what she's asking for support, is what I'm hearing.
She's talking about the Gillespie House Museum. The mining museum is owned by Boulder County. The Gillespie House is the house up on the hill that overlooks the Quick Mart. Up
I
there at
thought
the
she was
top.
talking about the mining museum.
No,
The history there is the historical old,
The-
the mining museum in 2013. Over first space.
Yeah,
So we don't even own
sadly, yeah.
So who mans it?
Boulder County Parks and Open Space.
That's why it's open, just those days with volunteers and one Boulder County folks there to test.
All right, I'm taking off.
Thank you, Emmett.
Thank you.
And if it goes down, I want the action boards.
Good to know.
Yeah, for real.
Well, we'll let the town know. Fleshed out for us.
Thank you.
That's why thank you so much.
Guys, have a good night.
Thank you.
Jesse, thank you.
Yes, thank you for sitting on with us.
Thank you,
I'll
guys.
turn that.
Bye.
Thank you.
But, it is just an old house. It wasn't like it was, what was it used for? It was just a residence, right?
Yeah, the mill master's quarters, it sounded like, for.
Mark Yo said that his family used to live in it when it was not where it's at now.
Yeah.
And even he's like, why?
Just a lot of.
Yep.
Hairy sight, as they would say.
This morning. It's cold.
To the hospital today.
Sorry to hear, but not good.
Amazing difference between Monday.
Found out right after I talked to you or before I came here.
It's like.
I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to the meeting and not think about it.
Daytime. It's like,
Let us know.
all the docs,
Wanted to voice it.
logs that you're sticking on us, of course. Yeah. So, it was 3 inches of indifference, so it was like, slabby.
But it didn't cost stuff. It was just really, edgy stuff.
Yeah, I want to
Go tomorrow, I think. I can tomorrow.
Yeah, it's gonna be brisk.
Oh, yeah. So, turn the window off for a couple hours.
You think is like a good boot fitter option? Larry's or Icon. Larry's is great.
They still
already have
want glass out there. Sorry, Drew. I drink
I want-
over 120 ounces of water every
Place
day.
she does like custom
Part of the-
fitting. I can find
the
the
way I
contact.
thought
I'll have it to her.
So just maintain
This spring and got like
health,
2
good
different
health. Good
boots
health.
fitted
Very
and custom
good.
insoles and like,
Just getting a set of Velcros. Yeah, Ferris, I think they're called.
Good luck last year.
Soles.
where did you buy?
A family member is like the head Northeast distribution.
Yeah, I the place in Iowa's great.
Think we're all back.
You know, if you go to Larry's, they're selling boots. If you go to Neptune, they're selling.
They're all
boots.
selling, yeah.
Go-
Let's resume the meeting, please. If everyone's
I'll
back.
try to remember like some different tags.
Yeah.
I think we've concluded that discussion. Let's move on to the aim and either Scott or Kate. Scott?
I presume everybody's had a chance to read this. I tried to be fairly thorough in my explanation. The only point of this is that I don't think that our investment policy statement explicitly states, well, it does exclude loans to businesses from our portfolio of what we can put our money into. A loan is considered to be something that comes back to you. So it would be like buying bonds or put your money into something that's a loan instrument. But my proposal is that we make loans to businesses explicitly prohibited from what the DDA puts our money into. And the main reason is because businesses, all businesses, even little local businesses, have access to capital markets. They can get loans, banks from the SBA. And I've had this conversation more than once with a friend of mine who's a bank president. And she has pointed out to me numerous times, we're not the only DBA in existence. There are others too, and they're all discouraged from doing that because loans are made by professionals who are trained to do credit evaluation. It is a profession, and there's a reason that it exists, and it's not what we do. We're not equipped to do that. We're not trained to do that. I've dabbled in it early in my finance career, but I will tell you that I don't feel like it's an appropriate thing for DDA to ever do. And if we get into the business of making loans, even small loans, to businesses, I can almost promise you that we will get burned at some point in time because we don't do credit evaluations. And so this really shouldn't be a long discussion or it shouldn't be too controversial. I think just, we need to put it specifically in our policy statement that we don't make loans to businesses. Any questions?
Well, I have a comment, Scott. Our policy is for idle funds. Has nothing to do with what we allocate or what we decide to do for a project. So you're mixing apples and oranges here in terms of what a loan could be. It's not going to be, we made a loan. It would not be an investment. It would be part of a project. So the statute specifically allows the DDA to make loans and behave as any profit-making business. And there are plenty of businesses that are not banks that make loans, private lenders and things like that. So I take issue with the fact that you've approached one banker. I've approached several bankers and we understand, and they have, every bank is almost like an individual. They have their own personalities, they have their own views. Some banks loan for construction, some banks loan for housing, some banks loan only for inventories. So they're just as different as people are. And trying to exclude something that the statute allows, I don't think is necessarily something that we should do. So I've read your proposal, and first, I think it's contrary to the law, and I think you're trying to inhibit the functioning of the DDA to the point where we don't need it. We take everything that we do, and you've come up with a criteria of analyzing what we do on a case-by-case basis. And every case is different, and every case is, times change, and needs change, and people change. So becoming more and more restrictive. And I'll give you an example where I think our investment policy is way too restrictive. I suggested that we do a certificate of deposit. And I also suggested that the town invest their money. They'd never done it before. The town invested $1 million and made 60,000 with their investment. Let me finish. And we invested $500,000 and we made 5,000 or 6,000. It would have been nice if we'd have made 30,000, but we have a restrictive policy in terms of what we can do. And basically our restrictive policy just ends up being, we can only buy certificates of deposit. Anything else is just too much trouble. So that's my comment, Scott.
Okay, that's a fine example. It doesn't have anything to do with making loans to businesses. And when we talk about banks making loans for construction or for inventory, they are professional lenders with credit evaluators. They're in that business and they are doing it as an investment for profit.
And sometimes DDAs are called on trying to invest in businesses that are in communities. And in some cases, it's actually to try and save them. And every bank has lost money on loans. I don't know a bank that hasn't had a summer loan. And all kinds of things happen to them too. So sure, if we did it, we run probably a higher level of loss. But just giving money away to businesses is not necessarily what I think the DDA is chartered to do. And we are being highly criticized as acting more like a charity than we should be acting like a business. And the statute says we should act like a business. Doesn't say anything about being a charity.
Just think of what we just talked about with the Bryant House and, would there be any situation where that would need to be, not that I think maybe that's at the top of the list of things, but, would there be some situation where a private business would rehab that and come to the DDA and say, well, we can do this, but only if we get, a really good deal, terms on a loan, or the other properties in town, like the gas station, the old building where the barbecue trailer is that is contaminated and needs to be remediated. And thinking in the lens of blight, like I know the burned shell of the building, which is in the CBD. I believe it's in the CBD. I looked today. I think it was. I know it's private property, but should someone say, should a developer say, well, I want to buy the, it's in my opinion, those are 3 properties in town that, need some help getting more, first of all, just reducing blight. Like that's our #1 mission, get rid of blight. And then environmental cleanup is, dovetails with that's not our mission, but that needs to happen. And that makes that gas station property not appealing for anybody that would just want to buy it and do something to it. So maybe someone would say, I'm a business, I want to buy that. However, there's going to be a phase 1 and phase 2 EPA cleanups. I'd like a loan on these terms to cover the cost of those 2 cleanups. Are we bankers? No, but we have an interest in the community and reducing blight and, like getting rid of, making things more usable, drawing more tax revenue into the district. So, I mean.
Here's a point though, if those private businesses cannot get a loan from professional lenders, why would we put ourselves on the
Because
spot?
we're the community that has the ability to say, you know what, it's worth us risk putting some on the line. We know, we're not saying all of it. You need to bring 80% of it. But if the last 20% can come from the DDA and we can, do our best diligence and protect, go through this. This is a hypothetical, right? Like, let's say someone says, I've got 750 thousand of the 900,000 I need to make that property, you know, environmentally remediated and usable and a tax-paying business in town, can you give me really good terms on a $150,000 loan? Is that something we should be closed to?
If somebody wants to come with a specific situation like that, and we wanted to consider it, we could reserve the right to consider it. But I would caution this group against having a policy of making loans. There's a few other issues. One of them is it's a small community. As soon as we get into the business of making loans to people we know, it creates a conflict of interest.
There's not anybody in the community that we wouldn't know. So that's correct. That's my understanding.
That's
If
correct.
you were to offer loans to people, and as far as remediation goes, like we just did, you know, the Snyder's Job project, and he had to pay for his work because he bought that property and had to pay for it so that he could remediate it, so that he can build on it. So hopefully that's the kind of people that own the properties that need to be redone. And that one the one you drive by, the burnt out house, that, you know, that is still under investigation by the Boulder County Sheriff's Office, which is why nothing has been done with it. So that one's just gonna sit there, and as soon as that's done, maybe that family, it's in a trust of some sort, is gonna rebuild it. And that would be their job to do it. Why would the DDA step in to, and that one's probably not a good example because it is a house instead of a commercial property, but
I just feel like that not, Snyder's notwithstanding, not every person necessarily has that financial horsepower.
Yeah, to do that.
And I feel like in a normal DDA district, you know, being able to offer, like, for example, we've heard other DDAs in Longmont say, well, you know, we've had to give loans for someone to redo their facade or their windows, that brought in more occupancy to the building, you know, and the building used to look like this. Now the facade on the outside's been redone, the windows have all been replaced. The thing's got this amazing revenue for the town of Longmont or the city of Longmont. So, I mean, I don't, in my mind, I don't think, hey, you know, we're at 7% loans, come and get it. You know, it's like, but I don't want to close the door to, hey, there's several properties in town that are in need of something. You know, what that is, who's gonna do it, how it's gonna happen, I have no idea. But if it involves, you know, a little push from the DDA, I'd like that to be an option.
I don't think it's a good idea for us to be doing that with private business owners.
That's your opinion, Scott, and it's contrary to what the statute says we can do.
can Kathleen talk?
Kathleen, go
Can
ahead.
I give public comment? First off, I guess I'm unclear. Has the statute always allowed for this? The
Yes.
entire existence of the DDA? How many loans have been given out?
Well, Longmont's made several.
In Ned.
No, how many loans?
We have never made a loan.
Okay, so I don't understand why this is a concern at this point, to begin with. But also, I don't like limiting anybody's opportunity. I bought a house. I've never had a credit card. I don't have a credit rating whatsoever. That's because I'm responsible and I only pay for cash, with cash. If I don't have it, if I take a loan, it's from a family member or a friend, and I've always paid it back. But I don't have a good credit score. I bought a house that I was the tenant, and the landlord loved me so much because of the care and upkeep I put on his house. He sold it to me, owner carry. Again, no bank involved. The DDA, I really am hearing what you're saying, Andrew. Not only do I not like to limit what the law allows, obviously it hasn't been abused or even touched in the town of Netherlands DDA. But when Andrew says something like he's saying, I'm right there with you. We're not all gazillionaires, okay? We all can't come into town and buy 3 buildings for $500,000 or more each. And I don't want to limit the people who can do that to be the people who get to live in this town and redevelop. I want everybody to have a chance. And I think it should be case by case basis on everything. I also had a question. When I read it, it said private businesses only, which to me meant nonprofits were still okay with you?
Well, there's been discussion in the past about when a nonprofit comes forward and says, we want to do an event,
Mm-hmm.
we want a grant. And some conversation has gone on over the past year of, rather than giving someone a grant, we should actually make them, instead of $2,000 here, go do what you want with it, create something. Here's $2,000. When you get your proceeds, you'd like to be paid back. And that's different. That's different than us making loans to private for-profit businesses.
Why? Because, I look at nonprofits, and I look right now in front of us, happening in real time. We have Catholic Charities making millions of dollars off of human trafficking worldwide, okay? And then I look at the budget, just because you're a nonprofit doesn't mean you need money. I look at the nonprofit teen center, has a $5 million a year budget. Okay, so it's the people, private business enterprise, entrepreneurs like myself, who don't have a credit line, but have paid my way the whole way through. If there's some event I want to throw, why would you gonna force me to form a nonprofit first to give me a loan?
Kathleen, I'm not encouraging the church. I'm not encouraging any.
I'm talking nonprofits. I'm giving you example of nonprofits.
And this isn't for nonprofits.
You're saying you want to limit businesses, but it's okay for for nonprofits.
I'm saying that those instances where somebody comes forward and they say, we want to hold an event in the town. And Ron has suggested we shouldn't give them, some of them, we shouldn't give them money, we should loan them money.
I agree.
That's fine. I don't want to limit that.
I don't want to limit it only to people. If you have a nonprofit, you have the opportunity to get money from the DDA. The DDA is a business entity, a for-profit business entity. Why would you cut off all the people who are trying to do business?
I'm not cutting off.
Well, you would be if you ban the option of a loan, which the law allows.
But you've already pointed out it's never happened, so we're not cutting.
Right, so I don't understand why it's in front of the board today at all.
Okay, fair enough.
I think it's some good dialogue. I think it's an opportunity for us to look at this. We have some sessions going forward this year with DCI. I think having some people in the room from Longmont a couple months ago was a great opportunity for us to see how other DDAs are functioning. And I think my suggestion is that we table this and we use this as an opportunity as we move through these meetings with DCI to try to look at opportunities to say, what kind of projects do we want to be doing? We have an opportunity to do things in Nederland to make the district better. So let's keep the dialogue going about this, but let's try to look at what can we do in these sessions with DCI to try to make it so we're more prepared by the time that we do a budget next year to have a budget where we're doing some impactful things as a DDA. And that's my take on this.
Is it also worth exploring what in our charter exactly, how is it exactly worded that we can do this? Ron's saying that it's in there.
Yeah.
So how is it exactly worded that is one of the options of what we can do? DCI will be able to tell us how they do it, which is great, so.
I feel like it's also.
Normally, we're in the statute, I didn't tonight, so.
If something was coming to us that we were making a decision on,
Yeah.
I could see feeling like there was a sense of urgency on this. We don't have anything in front of us right now that we're trying to make a decision on, but I do think like if somebody approached the DDA board and asked for something, we have an opportunity at that point in time to assess the project, the request, and we also have resources to leverage the lawyers and say, is this something that we could do? Or is this something that we shouldn't do so that we can all, as board members, make an informed decision? I kind of feel like that's an opportunity for us to like have some good dialogue about this and then think about how we're functioning moving forward without potentially right now, when there isn't a decision to be made, take a potential tool away that could help us solve something in town that we don't, it's so hard to forecast what's gonna come our way, right? But something that we say, we wish that we could help fix this, and we took away an option. That's my opinion.
For no reason.
But it's incredibly smart to be aware of it and
Yeah, I think it's
look
great
at
dialogue.
what we're doing closely.
And what we legally can do.
Yeah.
I think my question always goes back to what can we legally do?
According to Andrew, 7% funds.
Come and get them. Come and get them.
You said the percent on a price.
So the statute,
Any discussion from the people?
Scott's got.
the statute that you refer to, occasionally, is that in a place where we can all?
Yeah.
It's
31, 605, you got. There's about 8 sections.
Think about the propane tanks, I think about the gas station property.
Yeah, right.
About the other things.
Propane tanks. Yeah, big one.
What incentive could we get to the people to get rid of propane tanks?
Everybody has approached them to try to get them to go away. They're
What?
just not going anywhere. The propane, they're just, they got a long, like, 100-year lease or something ridiculous. I don't even remember,
No,
but they're not
It's-
going anywhere.
It's $10,000 a month. That's why they're not going anywhere.
Sure, exactly. Because
They
who
own it.
owns it, might as well just
That's why you
sit
don't.
on that.
Somebody comes along
Yeah,
and gives the gas company the land to put it on and pays the $10,000 a month rent
Yeah.
that they're paying, then something could happen.
yeah.
So the stumbling block is always property owner enjoys that 10,000 and they're not gonna give it up.
Yeah. And they're local.
Mhm.
If you want that one.
They're local.
So the fact is if the DDA came up with a piece of property and had a plan to buy it and trade it to them, and they still got their 10,000 a month, would it benefit the community to get rid of the gas tanks in a matter like that?
Yeah.
That's a possibility. But it would probably mean the DDA would have to fund, either by grant or by loan, some portion of it. And it would be something we'd have to do an executive session because it'd be a real estate transaction. And if we found a piece of property to put the gas tanks on, and they found out it was us trying to do it, the price would double overnight.
Okay, but before we break, I want,
Yes.
You and I disagree on this,
I
but
want-
that's fine.
I want
I
to
can't
clarify
understand.
Nothing.
that the aim was in no way intended to give preference to churches or Teens Inc., or any other group like that. It was only to allow us to work with people who come forward and say, I want to do an event. I need a little money to do the event, which was something that actually, Ron, you brought up months ago, is perhaps we should be doing loans instead of.
I agree,
Okay. So.
but you
there's-
shouldn't cut off private enterprise from getting a loan, especially when this is the DDA.
But that's not the business we're in.
What do you, you're in the business of making money.
No, we're not a bank, it's what I'm.
No one's saying you're a bank. I've given loans to people, I'm not a bank.
Okay.
I think it's a great conversation and we can explore it further down the road if anything ever
I just don't
comes
want you
to
to
us.
misinterpret what I was
Yeah,
proposing.
yeah.
Turn the heat off on us. We table,
Yeah.
motion to table this
But
discussion.
I would like to, if
Well, it's on the table.
if that information,
I sent it all out.
Thank
It's
you.
already out.
thank you.
And if you want to write it down right now. So on our About NDDA page,
Yeah.
there's links for all of this.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's Colorado Statute, Article 8, 31-25-801. But it's linked on that page that I sent to the group.
It goes from 801 to 26, doesn't it?
Yeah, it goes through the whole.
I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion's been made and adjourned. 15 minutes overtime. All those in favor
Thank
say aye.
you.